you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die, and can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability? John, welcome to the show.
My pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so blessed to have you here. This was a very last minute thing to get you on, and I'm just grateful that we were able to connect. Everything happens for a reason.
Yes, many reasons.
Many reasons, right, yeah. Like myself, you've probably been on this spiritual path for a long time.
Yes, most of my life.
Most of your
I'm
life.
a recovering Catholic, so.
Well, let's start there. That's an interesting side.
Okay.
So you were brought up in a Catholic upbringing?
Yes. I had 12 years of Catholic schooling, through elementary school up through high school, somewhere in between 7th and 8th grade. I came out of church one day, and I can't remember, I have no idea what they might have said or done in church that day, but what was in my head was, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. That's what I walked out with. And I didn't know what the right thing was, but I knew that that wasn't it for me. And so I've kind of been seeking ever since for what the reality is under what we experience.
But what did that do for you to have that Catholic upbringing?
Well, a couple of things. One, that upbringing is very good at creating guilt and shame.
Yeah.
So that gave me something to work with once I got to the spiritual path more directly. And the other thing that I look at as the benefit of it, there's two particular teachings that they have in the Catholic Church that I look at in hindsight and go, that really helped to open me up to where I am now. And the first one of those is the idea of the mysteries. Now, they have very specific mysteries. These are the things that we can't understand, but that kind of opens the door to looking for answers, but not necessarily having to find them. You know, that it's okay that there are some things we don't fully grasp. And the second piece of the teaching in that tradition, in that church, is the idea of all the saints, of all the angels, of all these other beings that we can reach out to for help, for guidance, for support, for, I won't say whatever we need, they're not Santa Claus, but that kind of availability of the unseen world being right with us all the time is something that I think laid a foundation for walking the path the way I walk it now. So that I would say is the big parts that have really helped me going forward. So.
I think I would have found it quite difficult to have just walked away from a religion if I was in one.
Well, I did too. The guilt and the shame that were hanging there had me leaving the house pretending to go to Mass throughout the next number of years. Throughout high school, I left because I wasn't in a space of trusting myself or feeling confident enough to speak up, or it being okay to speak up, to say, I don't believe this, so I'm not going to go. So instead, I pretended that I was still part of it. And
Wow.
that lasted for quite some time. So yeah, it was not easy to walk away from. I guess there's one other thing that I really got out of that, which is I loved the singing, which came back around later for me.
And the community.
And the community, it's definitely nice to have that kind of community where people are on the same page. That feels like what the world is losing right now.
Right. It feels a bit like home, doesn't it, sometimes?
Yeah.
And I can see why religion is so addictive in a sense, because, you're told what to think, and the right way and the wrong way.
Right.
And when you start taking self-responsibility and start looking into these subjects yourself, looking into the quest of what is the nature of my truth, of what reality is, right? You start to realize, oh my God, everyone's got a different take. There is no one truth.
Right.
And that your will starts to fall apart. Well, what is the truth? There must be one truth, even when you've crossed over, or the space where I came from, or this soul that is me having this human experience. There must be one truth, but there isn't. So, as a person and a seeker that's been on this journey, I can understand now. Just religion's a great thing in that sense.
Absolutely. Well, and it does, at least to a degree, open up to the idea of that larger picture. That larger possibility, even if it puts it in a straitjacket and says, this is what it is, it has to be this. This is as large as we can comprehend it, or these are the rules to follow to approach it. But it does say there's more than just me. I'm not alone. And so, to me, I think that's not just part of the appeal, but the necessity for us to create religion as a species, or spirituality as we come forward into a more individual space.
Could religion exist where it's based on come to us with an empty book, you put your own truth in that book? I don't think that's really religion, is it, as such?
It's not how I would define religion, because to me religion does have the dogma to it. These are the rules. If you want to be in this religion, you follow these rules. You hold these beliefs. These are our truths. Or, well, all the religions will say, this is the truth. And if you want to be saved or right, you follow the truth, which is our truth. But that search is, I think, what...
So this was obviously a young age of coming out of...
12, 13, somewhere in there.
The Catholic traditions, yet still hiding that from the rest of the family as well. When did you start getting into spirituality, in the sense of, looking at this from a perspective that we're a soul having a human experience?
Ironically, in my graduate program, getting a degree in theater, the first theater class I had was a class in the first acting class that I took. The professor had 3 textbooks for that class that seemed really odd as textbooks for an acting class. The first one was Richard Bach's Illusions. Second one was a book called Body Mind by Ken Dichtwald, I think. And the third one was Way of the Peaceful Warrior. I can't remember the author's name for that one. And so they were books. Body Mind was about what it says, that connection between the physical and the mental, emotional aspect of ourselves. And the other two were very much about questioning reality, and there's definitely a different way to look at things, and things are illusions, and you can walk through the world in a different way than most people do. that particular professor also encouraged us. He said, in a town this size, you don't know how lucky you are to have a practitioner, both a Rolfer and an Alexander technique instructor. And I encourage you to take advantage of both of them. So he actually had the Alexander technique instructor come in. Are you familiar with
No.
the technique? It was developed by an actor who lost his voice in Australia. And to figure out how to regain his voice, he worked with paying attention to what muscles we use and what muscles we need to use to do anything. So we bend our arm, that's basically the bicep, but for most of us, we're using the muscles on the side and even the back and other muscles. And so the Alexander technique is about increasing awareness in the moment to the effort that we're putting forth and letting go of unnecessary effort. And turns out they brought this person in. I happened to live across the street from the university, and he started offering classes for acting students in my living room. And so I was able to participate on a regular basis because he was using my space. And you're familiar with Rolfing?
No.
Okay. It's a type of deep tissue work. It's not deep tissue massage in the sense that they're going to work through your whole body, etc. But essentially it's for releasing the traumas that we hold in our muscles, specifically in the fascia. And in doing so, it's about realigning the body so that the energy flows through more directly. So I ended up being able to do the Rolfing, a series of 10 sessions, and that would release out of the physicality. And then I would do the Alexander technique, and it would help me to embody that new release more fully. And that got things realigned, got the energy moving very differently, got me, that whole situation got me questioning in a very different way. I don't know that I was quite there yet about the individual spiritual path, but it was definitely causing me to look at things differently. And from there, get to the end of the degree or close to the end of the degree, and I looked at the other people in the program and thought, I don't have the passion. I love theater, but I don't have the passion to go out and be an unemployed actor for the rest of my life waiting tables. And so at the time, the Rolfer told me that he was in the process of starting a massage school with a colleague, and he thought I might be really good at that. And so he encouraged me to do that. And in my mind, I looked at it as that would be much better to do massage than wait tables or bartend or that kind of traditional actor job. I could make more money and have a freer schedule, and I was kind of confused a bit because my fantasy was I'll be a massage therapist, then I'll go massage the casting directors and they'll cast me. And in hindsight, I was like, you don't get rid of a good massage therapist, so they would definitely not cast me if I gave them massage. So, but it was in massage school that things really opened for me. We had a wonderful program. We were exposed, I guess, to a woman who came in from San Francisco who put everything in a spiritual context. For her, touching another person's body in that way was spiritual practice. And we did 100 hours of training in 12 days, very intense. And in the middle of that, I was doing some of the practice techniques on one of my classmates, and I had full body energy surges come through me, and this knowing that said, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. As we went further in the program, we were exposed to a number of different techniques, including some energetic healing techniques, which was the next level of that experience for me. It was like, okay, massage is wonderful, but let's work at a deeper level than that. And so once I finished with the program, I was doing massage, but all of my ongoing training was doing energetic healing work. and focusing that specifically back on myself to get out what I didn't want in there anymore, which is still an ongoing process. But it was through that process that the channeling went open.
Did you understand what it was at that time?
Well, by that time, I finished massage school in late '94. The channeling opened in January of '97. So basically, it was 2 years from getting out of massage school until the channeling opened.
But you said that voice had been there before. That voice was there present when you started the massage school.
Well, that wasn't so much a voice as it was a knowing.
A knowing.
A knowing. Yeah. It was like I knew with every cell of my body that this is the right thing for me to be doing. Now, the voice had been there before when I went through a divorce. In the night after I was told, well, we're not going to continue working on this, we're going to get a divorce. In the midst of the 3 a.m. The voice came into my head, and I know now, I think I knew then, but I definitely know now that was Mother Mary, and she came in, and what she said to me, but it wasn't the words, just the words, it was the energy, it was the serenity of it that infused me as I heard it, was you're responsible for your own happiness. That was it. Short message.
Nothing could have been more impactful or more helpful, maybe just in that moment.
It was perfect. That was exactly it.
Didn't take away the pain.
No. Although it did take away I won't say it even took away the frustration or the confusion. Why is this happening? Why is this where we're going? But it soothed it. You know, it took away the raw edges of it. The ache was there, but the burning was not there.
No, and it's always at the points where we're at our lowest point that it tends to come through as well for some people.
Absolutely. Well, some of us are stubborn and we don't get the message any other way. And one thing that they've talked about frequently in the channeling that I've done is that in order to open up enough to receive that other thing with clarity, I believe we're always receiving, it's just most of the time we've got the volume on mute. To receive it with clarity, we have to have our energy system agitated. And so when our emotional body is agitated in one of those kinds of experiences, one of those painful experiences, that is when we're both most open to receiving and often most unable to receive. But that's where the greatest opportunity lies, at least for the initiation, for the beginning of it, for firing up, oh, there's something else, and I can connect with that. And am I crazy because I can connect with that? Or for imagining that it's there.
So you didn't fight it off when it came through. What did you do next? I mean, did you pick up a book? Did you speak to someone that knew something about this?
In terms of the channeling itself opening? Well, you asked earlier, did I know what it was? And I had those other experiences with the voice and with knowingness. And by that time, I had other things. We got out of massage school, and I got invited into a meditation group that was meeting once a week. And the woman who was hosting it, before we went and did the group meditation, she was essentially offering a class in using a pendulum to do dowsing. And so she would talk about some spiritual topic, and then we would use whatever topic she had talked about as the source to practice the pendulum to get answers. Excuse me. And so in that process, I learned a few things. I don't know exactly where I came across the first channeled material. I had read some channeled books by that time, by the time the channeling happened. I had also in the meditation group, one of the things she talked about was walk-ins. And so as she asked the questions, at the end, it was, okay, are there any walk-ins here? And if so, who are they? And the entire group of, I don't know, 10 or 12 people were very clear that there was one walk-in and it was me, including me. And I looked back in hindsight and it made a lot of sense. I definitely resonated with that truth. And so that, I think that was maybe February. It may have been that April that I actually, or it may have been a year later, I think, that I found out that there was a group of walk-ins called We International. It doesn't exist anymore. The founder has passed, but, and went to that first group. And so she actually, I mean, I was presenting there. My background's teaching, so I was a presenter, and she would finish though each one of these conferences with what she called the channel panel, and she would have several of the teachers up there. Most of them were not doing what I call channeling or think of as channeling now in terms of direct verbal channeling. Most of them were doing some variation on what I would look at as a psychic thing, which is I'm having a conversation here and I'm relaying it out here, which is what I was doing. So I was going into the state of connection, but it wasn't as full as allowing it to come out verbally, but it was more of that relay. And so that particular group also had a structure that could be created to have local groups. So several of those that I had been working with locally, doing the energy work or the massage for, or both, were also walk-ins, and we founded a local group here. So each month we met, and the beginning thing that we did was a meditation, which was a silent meditation. Nothing was supposed to be said or talked about. And that particular month, January of 1997, I opened up into the meditation like always, and not literally, but metaphorically, the only way I can say it is, it was like there was a knock on the back of my brain, and that voice came in, and it was Mary again, and she said, "This is Mary, I have a message to give to the group." And in that experience, it's outside of linear time. So for me, it felt like I argued with her for a very long time before I finally said, yes, you can give this message. I'm sure it was a few seconds, 30 seconds maximum maybe. And finally I got out of the way and let her speak. And then after that, there were a couple of the private hands-on energy sessions that I did where some more channeling came through. But really it waited until that April when I went to the next walk-in conference and sat down up at that table at the end of the conference to do the channel panel. And at that point, I did what my normal preparation was going into it, but my experience was completely different. It felt physically like someone had put football shoulder pads on me and a football helmet, and they were pushing down on all of those things. This whole area, I could feel this pressure. And when I opened my voice, it was not me talking. It was Melchizedek, I think. And so I got out of that, and the people out of the conference, a number of them came up to me and said, "Can you do that for me privately?" I was like, I guess so. And so it's not that there was no resistance, there was. But I came back from the conference and called a number of my friends and said, "I think I'm supposed to do this. Can I practice on you?" And literally it was within a few minutes of the first practice session, it was like being home. It was just what I was to do. And in a same way that the energy work felt like, okay, we're going to go deeper than the massage. Nothing wrong with massage. I love massage. Same thing with the channeling and the energy work. It was like, okay, this is a next level of getting down underneath. And so it it's been the primary part of my path ever since.
So how did your family take you doing that kind of work then? Did they ever find out? Do they know about it?
They do now. They were, I don't know if excited is the right word. They were not against massage. When I started to transition to the energy work, that got a little weirder. And partly it's my makeup coming out of that family, partly it's some other experiences I had as a child. I don't tend to be someone who shares without an invitation.
Right.
And so if I'm not asked, I'm not going to volunteer.
Okay.
And so when it came to the channeling, I just didn't talk about it for the most part. One of my siblings did ask me about it, so what is it you're actually doing? And we had a lovely conversation. And the other one, not so much. My parents, it was years before we had that conversation. Once we had the conversation about what I was actually doing and feeling it as a calling, that I'm not doing this necessarily because I want to, although I do want to. I'm doing it because it's who I am to do it in some way. And once we had that conversation, my dad went to the library to get books out on channeling. And then the next few times we spoke, there were questions, very good questions about channeling. And since then, it's gone back to, we just don't talk about it. They ask how things are going, but it's not about, so tell me more about the channeling kind of thing. But it varies. I mean, there are other family members that I've had the conversation with, cousins and things that.
So did this evolve into your full-time work?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I bet you would never have expected that to be the case.
I can go back. I've got those little books where you're a kid and you write down what you be when you want to grow up, and fireman, policeman, baseball player, football player. Channeling is nowhere in the list. That little Catholic boy, this is a realm beyond understanding. So no, I certainly never expected to get anywhere near here. And I wasn't even looking for it when it opened. I mean, I was aware what channeling was, but it wasn't someplace I was intending to go.
Have you read other channeled material?
Most of it actually before I channeled myself.
Do you think that helped to open you up?
It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know. In my experience, I believe that there were a few events that I went to where there were energetic techniques that were done that I think were instrumental in helping me to open. But I think the biggest thing that I did that opened this up was, once I had some energetic techniques to work with, I worked on myself probably an hour or more a day for that 2 years from massage school forward.
Practice.
Absolutely. And it was not just the practice, it was I really need to get out of me the old pain. And still working at it, but.
Do you embrace some of the teachings that come through in your own life?
Yes. Yes. I experience the channeling as a wonderful opportunity to eavesdrop on an infinite multidimensional jigsaw puzzle. And so, I mean, the groups are one thing, the private sessions are slightly different. But in all of them, I'm open to that piece that I can plug into another place in the puzzle to go, oh, that's how this works. And there definitely has been evolution as I've done the work in terms of the depth of what's coming through.
So if I was to ask you now, what's your definition of what is channeling to you?
Well, I've got, again, both the broad definition and the narrow definition. I believe that in channeling, I am acting as essentially a phone to multidimensional reality. For me, I'm not having the conversation out here. I'm hearing what's being said to the person at the same moment they're hearing it. So I'm a direct channel in that way. It's not being formulated up here and then I speak the words. They come out of me. And so I used to say, I'm a radio for spirit, but that's not quite right because it's a two-way radio. More like a walkie-talkie. So, you can hear me or hear them through me and then have the conversation with them, talk back to them, etc. So, in that sense, channeling for me is spirit writ large, whatever that means. Having the opportunity to speak with those in body. And with rather than to.
How much of John is in the readings, do you think?
Well, the metaphor that I give people, because I hear questions like that on a regular basis, the best metaphor I've come up with is during the session, my experience is much like being in a hammock out in the backyard while two or more people are having a conversation up on the deck. But the weather's perfect, the hammock is beautiful, I am relaxed and content, and I can hear everything being said, but I really don't care. Because it's not for me, it's for them. And so my ears, my attention will prick up when that new puzzle piece comes in. When something is offered that is also for me. But for the most part, I'm over there. Now that's one part of the answer, because that's about me consciously. My personal belief and understanding is that there is no such thing as a 100% pure channel. That what is coming through, distortion is too strong of a word, but it is being shaped by the vessel it's coming through. So, for instance, they're going to use, largely, when they're talking through me, they're going to use my vocabulary rather than yours or someone else's. They're going to use concepts, not necessarily that I have fully formed in my head, but that fit with my own belief systems. And so, to me, that's part of my primary work as a channel is not to offer the work to others. My primary work as a channel is to clear myself.
Mm-hmm. I always worry that, when I do experiment with channeling, if someone was to ask me a question that was quite scientific and that's completely out of the field or my depth of information that's contained in my brain, are those that are coming through me gonna work with someone that either has that knowledge or doesn't have that knowledge? Does that make sense?
It does. And so part of that, to me, is kind of a mismatch energetically.
Right.
And so I've had people ask questions. Now, only one time has there ever been radio silence. And I don't remember what the question was that was asked. Most of the time, if someone asks a question like that, they will literally be told through me that the channel is blocking the answer to that.
Yes.
But even more so, the further I've gone on in this, the clearer my intention is that I'm drawing the people to work with me that I can best serve.
Got you. That makes a lot of sense, because when you then twist that around to other channelers out there, they are working with their groups. Not everyone's going to come to a channel.
Exactly.
Right? That's got to say something. That's got to say either that soul is not on a path of reawakening at this time, doesn't need it in this moment, But there does seem to be an energetic match between that person that comes to see the channeler and the channeler themselves.
Absolutely. And even if it's a mismatch, it's going to be a mismatch that is of service whether that person knows it's of service or not. For instance,
Pushes them on.
yes, I've had people who are put off by what I think is one of the primary things that I offer, which is the knowing at a deep level that everything is divine. And I do mean everything. And so I've had people come in and get very offended when Mother Mary or some other spiritual being that has a name they recognize comes in cussing like a sailor. But part of the reason they're doing that is to shatter our preconceived ideas of what is spiritual and what is not. And so for those people, I've never seen them again. And maybe that just turned them off and shut them down. But I'm not responsible for their experience. And so that used to shatter me. That really affected me deeply. In fact, one of the first times, and it was probably the second conference I went to after the channeling really opened up and people started asking me to do private work for them. This woman came in to have a session with me, and Norman Rockwell? Okay, if you think 1930s or 1950s painter, he painted the picture of the American story, if you will. So rocking chairs and lemonade and the family gathered around the Thanksgiving table and everything. And so the woman came in, little tiny old woman, gray pin curls. It was like the Norman Rockwell grandmother sitting in front of me. And I don't remember who I channeled for her. What I remember is they came in, and it was one of the most intense sessions I've ever experienced from my side of things. And the energy was, you know what you're supposed to do, now do it. And that was the energy for 30 minutes. And I wasn't in the hammock that day. I was pacing, going, oh shit, I'm never going to do this again. It's all over. I thought this was my path, but apparently it's not. And we get done, and we're sitting across from each other at this little table in a hotel room, one of those tiny tables that you have 2 chairs at. And she reaches over and pats me on the hand, and she says, thank you very much. I couldn't have heard it any other way. And I went, oh my God. Because that's the last thing I would have expected. But that, in and of itself, was helping me to break out of what I thought spirituality was.
Isn't that the problem, though, with the spiritual community at large? We are, we're lost with it. Some of us are. It has to be a certain way. Don't talk about sex. Wear the white robes. Let's get the harps out. Do you know what I mean? It's terrible.
Absolutely. Well, and that again is part of my job. Part of my path is that when I'm channeling, they cuss. Now, I cuss outside of it, but I probably cuss less than the beings coming through do sometimes. I eat the foods that you're not supposed to eat. You eat meat? Oh, that's not good. Or you drink alcohol? That's not spiritual. You can't do those things. And to me, it's embodying that everything is spiritual. And the ones who aren't ready for that will find the people who will still give them their set of rules.
Until they're ready
to
move on, or whatever forward is, or whatever evolution is in this realm right now. But yes, I think to be in denial of, but then when something does feel really wrong, if someone's doing something that's not really in alignment or coming from either, I always say if you're hurting someone else or yourself, maybe we should just check in there and see if that's right.
Absolutely. So it's not anything goes in the terms of the more empowered we get, the more we're consciously choosing our path. As far as I'm concerned, we're going to step into you are that mirror for me. And what I do to you, I'm doing to me. It's not just I'm doing it to Jesus, I'm doing it to me. And so we come more and more naturally to that place of the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And so I believe that's where we're going. And that those kinds of things where we're hurting another person, even up to physical violence and killing someone, I believe that that is primarily, if not totally, out of our need to feel powerful.
Yeah.
Which is an attempt to feel our worth.
And how many times have we been doing that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so for me, and they've said this in the channeling, and I deeply believe it, the only issue on this planet is that we have come in here and we don't remember that we're divine. Because we do not remember we're divine, we are seeking our value. And we're seeking our value from others to mirror it back to us.
And even those on the spiritual path, it may be, yes, it's my truth, but I still can't remember coming from somewhere. I still can't remember being somewhere else.
Absolutely.
I think I'm a soul having a human experience because I'm looking through these human eyes, and I'm got all this data around me, and the awareness of awareness,
Mm-hmm.
the ability to say I'm aware,
Yes.
and to know, and to pretty much know that I am. So something's in me that's me, but it's not this.
Right. But there are certain phrases, again, those puzzle pieces for me. One of them that struck me the most strongly in all these years that I've channeled is an adjustment of what you said a moment ago. I'm not a divine being having a human experience. I'm a divine being having a divine experience through human form.
That's good.
And that goes with one of the core teachings that they're offering through me over and over again.
What are some of these core teachings, just very
Well,
briefly?
that one is throw out everything you think you know about karma. And we are here in every life by choice. We have chosen our parents. We have chosen the basic parameters of what limitations we're going to explore in a given lifetime. But we're not here to fix what we got wrong in another life. We're not here to learn in the way that most people learn it. We're going to learn a lesson and then we don't have to deal with that again or whatever. We're here to learn in the sense that every experience is a new experience. And all of the experiences that we're having are in the parameters of I'm a divine being exploring what it's like to not remember I'm divine.
Which is kind of like what I was saying.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah.
And
yeah.
so when we get to the place where we're open and seeking for the bigger picture, there's a time, and I know for me, part of that, yes, the massage, I loved it. I had that inner knowing. But the massage, the energy work, the channeling, there certainly has been an arc of letting go of trying to prove myself by what results I get in helping this other person.
And isn't that the thing with channeling, is that with the mediumistic work, like, Long Island Medium, for example, she's giving the evidence, in a sense. She's providing the proof. Where the channeling doesn't do that, it's kind of saying, hang on a minute, what about you take self-responsibility?
Exactly.
Now, there's nothing wrong with the medium. That is needed.
Absolutely.
That, at a person's level, is their breakthrough point.
Yes.
To realize there's more.
Most
right?
definitely.
Okay. But no matter how much proof that the Long Island Medium or John Edwards or any of these gifted people give, still doesn't mean shit.
Right.
We're still even having this conversation.
Absolutely. And for me, that was a huge thing to let go of. And I can't say it's fully gone. I still have my patterns that I'm working with of needing to let go of caring what other people think about what I'm doing.
That's a big one.
It is. I'm certainly much more free of that than ever before.
Good.
and that allows more to come through.
Yes. Because when you do this work, you're kind of walking away from any old life that you had. Friends as well sometimes. Most times friends as well.
Absolutely.
Patterns.
Absolutely.
But something better always comes through. Better people come through. That's not to say the people before were not good. I'm not saying that.
More resonant.
More resonant, because absolutely. And even in relationships, it's different.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so that to me is the ball game. That's the whole thing. You know, that my path of walking forward into more of my empowerment, regardless of offering channeling or not, that's my gift to the world. What I have to offer is myself. And ultimately, myself is not my physical body, it's not my emotions, it's not my thoughts. Myself is my divine energy. And what I'm here seeking to do, and what I'm here doing the channeling to help others, to support others in doing that same thing, is to clear away, this just came through a couple weeks ago, to clear away people's personal veils. There's not a veil. We're all doing the dance of 1,000 veils.
Of course we are. Of course we are. But every channel that I've interviewed, and 50 plus, I've met 50 plus like this
Absolutely.
in person, right? Which is not what everyone's done. I mean, if that's my Guinness Book of Records, cool, right? I'll take that, yeah. And everyone is sat in front of me with a different truth.
Absolutely.
Universal pinpoints like, unconditional love and maybe a few other things, but there is, for each entity coming through, or entities, they're in outer time and space living their own truth.
Certainly.
So the one thing this documentary is showing is that there's just not one set truth. We said this at the beginning.
Absolutely.
So you have to be happy when you do this work that someone else is bringing through something different.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And one of the primary things, anytime I work with someone for the first time, and this was from another spiritual teacher that I had along the way, her primary focus was, use your own discernment. This is my truth. It's up to you to take what of this works for you and leave the rest at the door.
Can you be bigger from your own truth? Can you expand to a level that you couldn't have done through not having it? Can you become something greater from it? That's what it's really saying, isn't
Absolutely.
it? And it, you say to yourself, well, I've found this amazing truth, and even if someone would take half of it or a portion of it, it would still help them, but they don't want to take any of it. But they seem happy.
Well, that's another piece for me that opened up my freedom, was when I really got, not that there hadn't been moments along the way where it hit me in the face previously, but where I really got that my work was not for everyone. And I could stop worrying what the ones my work was for were going to think about what I was offering. I could just let that go. And again, like with all the other things, it's not necessarily fully gone. But that concept, that idea that I'm not here to work with everyone on the planet, unless I am, in which case I'll sell 7 billion copies of a book or something. But right now,
might be a cult.
Yes, exactly. But right now, that's not where I'm at, and so my primary intention is to connect with and reach those people that I can best serve, because we're matching in what I'm offering with what they're needing or looking for.
Have you noticed that there's more and more channels out there?
No, because I'm not on.
Okay.
I'm not on social media.
I'm telling
I don't.
you.
Okay, I believe you. When you said 50, I was like, wow, that's a fair. I didn't know there were
There's
50
so
out
many
there.
more.
Well, I know there's a number, but that you could find 50 through whatever pathway you're
Look how
going.
I found you.
Exactly.
You're brought together. You've been brought to me.
Most definitely.
For the help that you're going to give to others, and other reasons as well. But people are finding you, and you don't even have a website.
Yeah, I don't know that I ever got anyone to come to me from the old website.
So how are people finding you?
Well, as from the beginning, it's direct referrals. You know, someone.
Powerful, right?
Yeah. Some of that, when I was doing the traveling, there were a few spaces I was working from that had newsletters and that kind of thing. But mostly it was people inviting me to their home and into the community spiritually that they had, or literally direct one-to-one. I think you would be served by going and talking to
And
this
you
person.
had your own talk show as well at one point.
Yes.
That would have helped.
Not really, because I didn't promote it. I did it for over 2 years, over 100.
But it helped you. There was a reason.
Oh, it certainly helped me. Yes, absolutely.
What did it do for you, interviewing all those people?
Well, it wasn't that kind of a show.
Right.
It was, I spent the first, again, depending on the day, somewhere between 30 and most likely 45 minutes, essentially teaching. I wasn't doing direct channeling. I would be exploring some spiritual topic. And then at the end of it, there would be a channeling that was 5 minutes to 15 minutes, sometimes as long as 30, that energetically anchored or helped people to shift in relation to the topic I'd been talking about. I think during the course of that, I did 5 or 6 interviews of some of the spiritual teachers that I was most resonant with.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I don't know that I garnered, it was like their people may have listened to that particular show, but I don't know that they came back to listen to others. They may have, but it wasn't about expanding my reach that I did that. It was about finding my voice in a new way, knowing that I could literally sit down and talk for an hour on pretty much any topic with that sense of I'm pulling the puzzle pieces together as myself, not just in the channeling.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to help you at the end of this interview, just to, push you to make your own YouTube content, because that's what you should be doing. That would be, that's a platform that will just give you a voice and to grow a following as well. Most definitely. You've brought with you as well some items that you make yourself.
Yes.
Are these items that you sell?
Yes. Well, the onks I sell.
Well, let's pick it up.
Okay.
The yonks.
The onks. Connecting, well, as I said, I went to Egypt 3 times. But this, actually, another teacher that I know, the one who had the primary focus on discernment, who made that one of her primary things, you're responsible for what you get from this, not me. She called me, knowing that I did stained glass and could do soldering, and said she was going to offer this group, and she needed onks made because we were going to use them in a particular way during that particular group, and was I interested in doing that? And so she gave me carte blanche to figure out how to do it. She had one that an artist somewhere had made for her as a prototype, and I was able to talk to that person and then explore myself to refine to the way that I do it. But they move a lot of energy.
So let's just hold that up to the camera as well. Yeah, that's
Okay.
okay. And that's got crystals inside it.
It's
as well.
got 3 crystal points and 8 crystals inside. The first ones, I was literally finishing them at the group, and she had arranged for a huge number of crystals. So people were packing as many crystals as they could fit in there, and they were so heavy.
And how would you get hold of one of these from you then?
Well, you would contact me. In fact, I just got an email earlier this week from someone wanting to purchase one. So, just let me know that you want me to make you one. So.
And then we've got the infinity symbols
Yes.
as well. Yeah.
Which this is the prototype. I'm in the process of writing the care and use guide for the onks, And once that's written, hopefully by this summer, my intention is to start making these as well.
That's cool. So for people to get in contact with you, if they want a reading with you, how do they do that now?
Okay. The best way is by phone. That's 417-720-4022. 417-720-4022. They could also email me at contactlight, Light, at AOL.com. And again, we'll see how long it takes to get there. The website domain that I do have, even though there's no website on it, is contactlight.today.
Contactlight.today. Well, we'll link all those at the bottom of the interview as well. Sorry, the description of this video.
Certainly.
Yeah, so that people can...
Marvelous.
Yeah, can have access to them. We're going to do a bit of channeling as well, because obviously this is a mixture of a documentary interview and one for the More Show. What is the most important message of your work, would you say? I mean, we pretty much covered that, but if I was to...
Well, the most important message specifically would be, it's time for us to recognize that we are here on Earth as a playground, essentially. We're here to explore what it's like to not know we're divine. And because as divine beings out there in the rest of reality, that's our grounding, that's our framework. And so in the same way that someone who has been starving and dying of thirst out in the desert is going to come into that oasis, and that first taste of water is going to taste utterly different than anything they've ever drunk before. And that first bite of food is going to taste utterly different by having the experience of not having had food or drink for that time. That's the framework for me that is the core of reality. And I know there are deeper levels than that, but that takes the pressure off to perform. We're not here to prove ourselves to God so that we can either go to heaven and avoid hell, or so we can come around the bend in the next lifetime to a better life rather than a lesser life. And so that framework for me is the framework where choice is possible. And so that would be the core of it. We're here to explore first, and then for those of us who have chosen coming into this life, we have the opportunity to explore how to open to divinity in the midst of not knowing we're divine.
Well, John, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Hello and welcome, dear one. We are Melchizedek and Metatron come to be with you today.
Thank you for being here. Now, the other name was?
Melchizedek and Metatron.
Metatron. Now, Metatron, I'm sure I've heard that channeled elsewhere as well.
Mm.
So is there others that you work through?
Yes.
Each bringing a different flavor of you through?
Certainly, there's none that can carry the whole.
Well, there's some that say they do.
They would be delusional.
Yeah. What is your connection with John?
Depends upon what level you're asking the question. In terms of this aspect, in doing the channeling, there is partnership, but that's not exactly the right word. The language is not there for it. There is collaboration, might be a better word for it, but it's not exactly an equal collaboration. He has the body and we do not. So there is symbiosis, might be another word that partially describes the relationship. There is teacher, mentor, friend. The relationship can be described as any kind of cut stone with multiple facets to perceive.
But you've worked with this man before?
Yes.
And what is before in your understanding?
Well, what is before in our understanding is that there is not a before. We're answering in your understanding. Linear time is a construct of this reality. In the perspective that we are in, it's all happening now based upon where consciousness is focused. And so, in that sense, it is more like one of your recordings, the DVD or the CD, that it's there and you can fast forward or rewind to whatever point you wish to focus on to have the experience of. Except, unlike the DVD and the CD, even though it's there, it's also changeable. Because it is not that one dimension of flat space, if you will. It is multiple dimensional reality. And so every possibility is available dependent upon where you choose to focus the conscious awareness.
And it's changeable.
Yes. And when it changes, reality expands.
Expands in the sense of?
Then, well, another dimension of reality is created by every choice.
Could that be looked at differently?
You mean described in a different way?
Yeah.
Okay. This reality is about experience. You are here exploring experience. When you make a choice, whatever that choice may be, some choices split reality in two, so to speak. And so, by making that choice, there are now two aspects of the greater you going down different pathways based on those two choices. Now, some of those choices, the split is very short, and the merge comes back together again. Others are divergent, and they will not come back together again. All of them are being explored by the reality that is you as a divine being, expressing down all those dimensionalities, so to speak.
A bit like this, the same as a parallel reality?
That would be another term for it, yes.
But even that probably is limiting to what it may be.
Well, and that's why we talk about it in terms of creating new realities every time choices are made. Okay, so now multiply all the choices you make by all the choices by one other person making. And how those choices interact with each other. There are many choices that you make which do not really directly affect anyone else, but by changing your experience, that change in your experience affects the experience that you have with another person. And so the you that made this choice, we won't call it right because then it brings in right and wrong and that messes with people's heads. But the one making this choice has an experience here that is different than what's experienced over on the one making this choice, which affects all of your relationships. Nothing like going for the biggest topic first.
That's true, yeah. I guess it's because we're ready to hear that.
Certainly. To the degree that you're ready to hear that, that's the degree we are able to explain it in this moment.
And what we're not ready for, or what we're not able to ask you, you're not going to tell us anyway.
Well, that depends on circumstances, because at times, well, all the time, you receive truth in pieces. You are all wandering through the woods trying to follow breadcrumbs back to where you came from. Except that some of the breadcrumbs have been taken away by the birds, etc. And it's very dark, and the breadcrumbs are not glowing, if you will. But sometimes that which you're not ready to hear will trigger enough resistance in you that you will do the work to prepare yourself to rehear it.
So if we were to move the words or the understanding of what parallel reality is, and let's bring in another idea here. What if we've done this before?
Well, again, to a degree, everything you're doing is already done. We'll skip the CD now and go to the old LPs, where the grooves are there, and you can move the record and put the needle down wherever you wish. But that's about you making the conscious choice to participate in this particular moment. In truth, linear time is the focusing of consciousness in a set reality that is in motion. Again, we don't mean set reality in that there's no choice, but that you're going to choose to focus your consciousness through this persona during the duration, so to speak. All these terms that are about linear time screw with talking about linear time. But it's because you have agreed to have your focus flow in this direction with reality that you perceive reality in linear time. You could have chosen to perceive it backwards. Now, this level of reality is not set up that way, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. For instance, whenever you consciously choose or unconsciously have it come up that you are focusing on a memory of this lifetime, you are moving the conscious focus out of straight linear time. The straight linear time is the foundation.
Yeah.
And so along the track of linear time, you have an awareness that, oh, I'm thinking about what happened last week or what happened at lunch or whatever.
2 years ago, 5 years
2 years ago, doesn't matter. But what you're doing is essentially time traveling. And the stronger your ability to consciously focus is, the less the foundational reality of that linear flow of time in one direction would constrain you. The more you can focus, the more you can consciously experience that which theoretically in linear time has already happened, as if it is happening now.
Well, what about when you create a new reality of a past event that didn't happen the way you remember it happening, but then you are imagining a different outcome of an event happening?
Well, again, multi-level answer to the question if we want to answer it fully, but one of the pieces of what you're doing is you're jumping parallel realities, so to speak, to the reality pathway, the linear pathway that actually did happen on, because all of the choices are there. And so what you're doing is connecting with that pathway over here and bringing energies of that experience to the other track.
But you only then come back to this reality, but then has something changed about this reality?
Oh, yes. Not the linear track, because what happened, but your experience of that, because what you carry forward with you on the linear time frame is in essence the imprint of your experience, at the conscious and at the unconscious level. In other words, you carry patterns out of that experience based on what are the energies you allowed to flow in the experience, what are the energies you suppressed in the experience, and what are the interpretations that you put on that experience consciously and unconsciously. And so you've got at least those four aspects of the energetic pattern that are moving forward with you. Now, when you imagine the past experience being different than it was here, part of what you're seeking to do, because there are, call them healing techniques that try to do that.
Yes.
Neuro-linguistic programming, for instance. And so what you're seeking to do in that case is take the energies from the alternate version of that reality and replace them as the pattern moving forward. Now, depends upon the practitioner and how good they are at focusing, etc., how much they're replacing versus compressing. In other words, whatever degree those energies are in that pattern moving forward in this life, you bring the alternate experience over here, and ideally what they're attempting to do is unplug the old pattern moving forward, get rid of it, and plug this pattern into its place.
Right.
Most often, what happens moving forward is something in the middle of that. Some of the old energy gets let go of, some of the new energy gets plugged in, and they move forward, which is why there are certain people doing those kinds of techniques who go back to do it multiple times.
So you can change the present moment and aspects of yourself at this present moment by even going back to a reality that wasn't quite the way it was, changing it, and something's brought in from that to this present moment now. Said in a layman's term.
Said in layman's terms, certainly.
Yeah.
And we can say it in layman's terms in a slightly different way as well, which is, you are the sum total of the energy of all your experiences and the patterns that they are running in, both conscious and unconscious.
Okay, so if I've had a very harsh childhood and I want some forgiveness in the past, or something's happened in the past that I want to forgive,
Yes.
or whatever it may be, right? We can go see that memory, perhaps change it as well to a more forgiving output or something. But we've got to want to change it, though. Some of us don't want to change
and that's
it.
the piece. That's the piece.
We may want it to stay like it was,
Well,
and then say that we don't like it.
well, it's about the difference between the conscious and the unconscious. People hold on to the past, especially the pain of the past, because that is how they define who they are. And that definition includes their own blame for what that experience was, their self-blame, and their blame of the other person and or people. In other words, in order to get to the place where that past energy can be changed, I mean, theoretically, it of course can be changed. To the degree that it will be changed is the degree that you're willing to let go of the blame. Many people hold on to things, not necessarily, they don't consciously want to hold on to it, but the unconscious pattern is to hold on to that other person is bad, is evil, was wrong, did this to me, I am screwed up because of what they did. And in order to get to the place of being able to change it, again, we don't want to put it in that all or nothing. It is much more on the dimmer switch spectrum, so to speak. The degree to which someone can change an aspect of their past is the degree to which they are willing to let go of that pattern that they carried forward of the meaning of that past, which a lot of that is about who is to blame. People define themselves most often through direct comparison to others. And so that is largely where things get locked in place, because to redefine myself, to let go of that pain in the past, I have to let go of whoever I am blaming for inflicting it upon me. I have to let go of that blame of them.
But could that be done by reimagining it happened in a different way, a more loving way, that the outcome wasn't quite like that? Or is that denial of what happened?
Well, again, it's somewhere on that spectrum. The degree to which attempting to reimagine it in an alternate form where it did not happen that way, where it did not happen to that degree, or whatever, the effectiveness of that, how much that new imagining is going to be able to replace what the experience was in the linear timeline, is going to be affected by the willingness of the individual attempting to make the change.
But it could happen.
Oh, absolutely. It does happen.
Well, would it not be easy then to maybe imagine it as a parallel reality where it didn't happen? Or is that denial still?
Often that will be more denial than anything else. That will be suppression. That's the...
We don't want to do that.
Well, again, experience is what it is, and suppression is an experience. So
Yeah.
we would not judge that as a wrong thing, but it doesn't help move toward empowerment and choice. Denial that something happened is a self-protective mechanism, but it is not empowerment.
Well, if that's what's possible with going in and imagining a different version of an outcome in maybe this life, or whatever it is that's causing you in this life pain, how can you apply that principle to making yourself the most grandiose life in this present moment as well? How do you, if we've got the power to do that, then we've got the power to really have the best life we could possibly have.
Well, and so the question is, what is the best life you can possibly have? The best life you can possibly have is the one that you have in this moment. Wherever your consciousness is focused is where your perfect life exists as you're experiencing it. And so anything that would say some alternate reality is better is a judgment of who you are, where you are, what you have manifested, everything you've done up to this point.
Is the best life the knowledge of that?
Perhaps. For you in this moment, that's why you asked that question. It is always moving because the moment is always changing. But in some ways, the best life is a crazy question. It's a marvelous question because it can help break up the constrictures around what life is supposed to be. But best is a should. Quite frankly, it's unreachable in the sense that you will imagine it. Because no matter what you're imagining in this moment as the best life, as you continue on that linear track, your definition of the best life will always be moving away from you. But it is always embedded in a judgment of what is wrong in this moment.
It does say that. It does say that. And I don't want it to really say that. Oh, God. It's the life with the most amount of freedom in it.
Okay, the most empowered life.
The most empowered.
Okay.
Yeah, the most empowered. I think that's a better way of putting it.
All right. And so that's step by step. It's not flip the light switch, oh, you're ascended. And certainly there are those who have had that experience of the light switch. But quite frankly, they were a lot closer than the stories told about them are actually clear about. And they were walking the path moment by moment to open into more empowerment and greater freedom moment by moment by moment. But here's the question. Freedom from what?
That is the question. Freedom from what? Freedom from an illusion of some sort, maybe.
Well, that's actually pretty close to the answer we would give you, although illusion is a loosely defined term. But freedom from the false impression that you have, both mentally and experientially, that you are less than fully divine.
Yeah.
Because complete freedom, complete empowerment, is complete experience and awareness of divinity.
Freedom from... freedom from... I almost want to say, again, freedom from an illusion. A self-set illusion of anyone else's truth of what this is.
Well, yes, but doesn't matter how it got set. What matters is it's your illusion now.
Yeah, and it's what I want to do with that to make it even more, to have some fun with it as well.
Well, and so the first way to do that is to recognize that you're here to experience whatever you're experiencing. And so stepping into freedom is recognizing when the judgment of this moment comes up and letting the judgment go. Multiple forms and tools to do that in. But this moment, to do what you're asking there, to do what you're desiring there, to move toward the greater freedom, the greater empowerment, which is the greater experience of your divinity in this moment and all moments, is to be open to the signals from within yourself, which are your judgments, your discomfort, your shoulds, even the part of you that says, ooh, best life, which is embedded with judgments and shoulds, etc., of this moment. Recognizing that things in both polarities are the illusion that you're imposing on the truth of this is the experience I'm having.
Yeah, because I wanted to come here. I think I did.
Oh, you did.
I think I
You
did.
did.
Yeah.
You came in with a whoop!
Right. So what the fuck are we doing trying to, always escape it and say that the better answer's on the side where I was as an energy rather than a human experience. The best was here maybe, right now.
That's why you're here. But you're not looking to the other side. Well, part of you is. You're not, for instance, talking to us because it's better where we are.
No.
You're talking to us to be able to more fully experience where you are.
Yes, and does something that you know where you are help me here, and does something I know where I am help you there?
Of course.
Even this conversation?
Of course. But not in the way you mean help.
No. That's again just a...
That's a construct, that's a term. And
it's a misunderstanding.
Exactly. And so the word that we would put in place of it is
Growth.
What we're offering here. Well, growth has judgment in it as well.
Let me finish.
And in truth, human language is filled with judgment. It's built on it. But the word that we would give you, that we would say is as concise as you can do for what you're talking about there, is you connect with us to expand your experience here. We connect with you to expand the experience we are having. In other words, your conscious linear focus through this lifetime, by connecting with us, you allow that to expand, again, visually, maybe sideways, maybe spherically, around that center point of your conscious focus. So you're broadening, you're allowing yourself, through expanding in possibilities, to be less, ironically, self-centered, and opening into the more universal that is the divinity, not only of you, but of all experience.
I'll think about that one. I'll just think
Indeed.
about that one.
Well, start by breathing with it. And by all means, you'll hear it again.
No, I think something very powerful is coming through here right now.
Indeed.
Um,
But it's less about how powerful it is and more about how much you're letting it in.
Yeah, yeah, but then I could say, well, maybe this is less filtered that's coming through.
Whose filter?
The human filter.
Indeed. Which human?
This one, this is less
Yes,
filtered.
exactly. Which is why you're able to receive it more. Because in this flow of this segment of linear time, but in connection with everything else you've done, you allowed yourself to open more fully to receive this in this particular moment in the way you just received it. We would also say that if you listen to it again, when you listen to it again, if you breathe,
I'm trying.
we know, but you will allow it to expand further. Because truth is always infinite. Your capacity to know it mentally is one thing. Your capacity to experience it is another. And that's what we mean when we say it's infinite. Because your capacity to experience any truth expands with the degree that you remember your divinity.
I almost am getting to the point where I'm feeling with you, and I felt this with others as well, is that we've done this before, and it's almost like the parallel universe analogy, where we're doing this somewhere else in a different way. But I'm going to turn it around to my own truth and say, no, it's not a parallel universe feeling. It's more of a case of the Big Bang happened. That's just a human understanding of something like
Yes.
that. Yeah. And it finished somewhere in an unfathomable future, and it's been on a repeat cycle. It repeats. And it's almost like, did we have this, what would it matter if we had this conversation before in a different way? What matters now is that maybe we're doing it this way. How many times we've done it, does that matter? Probably not. Or is this just not a truth that I'm speaking and I'm picking up on something else? That's for me to answer, though, I want to say.
Ultimately, yes. And by all means, we can give perspective if you desire.
Go ahead.
Those kinds of questions about the parallel realities,
Or even
or about
a looping reality.
the looping reality as a possibility. Every possibility that is possible to experience is experienced. So you can say this is parallel reality. You can also say this is looping reality, and both of those would be true, and both of those would not be true. And there are other explanations as well, because every possibility
possibility.
Yes. When the word that the one we are speaking through prefers above all else for divinity is the phrase, actually, the all. And in the all, in his encapsulation, is all possibility. Everything that is possible already is. And the problem with that encapsulation is the experience of linear time messing with things. Because everything that has happened in linear time is happening in one big now that you would think of as the Big Bang in the way that you framed it.
Or the looping, or the parallel.
Or the looping, or the parallel,
but you're
etc.
saying it's more potentially from your truth that think of it like it's this, everything is possible, and that's just an aspect of what the all could be of possibility. Then how the hell do you ever then grab onto something that is, well, if everything is all, and that I've just grabbed onto nano bits of all, what is the truth then? If everything is all,
The truth that matters is the moment. The rest of this is mind candy as a way to get you to be more present in the moment.
why couldn't I have found this presence in the space that you come from? If I've come from the space that you have, and I'm going to go to somewhere,
You had it there. You didn't come from there to here to discover it, you already had it. You, quite frankly, came from there to here, so to speak, not in a literal sense, but in that construct, to experience what it was like to not know it. And to have the experience of opening to the knowing of it, but struggling with that knowing. Having it not be something that is the foundation of all your experience, but rather having it be something that you are discovering, like the breadcrumbs through the forest, that you are discovering like a fantasy or a dream or a memory, piece by piece by piece, and recognizing that yes, it is possible. In the all of all possible experience, there is that aspects,
So
multi-layered.
in the all,
Yes.
this could be a life review,
Could be.
and we're doing the life review from a different perspective. We're now getting to relive this life from a different perspective, seeing it differently, because it's a life review. But that doesn't mean it's true. This may not be a life review, but if it's the all, how can the all? Oh, it's just, but it's
Yes.
it's mental
The
masturbation.
conundrum questions. Well, and that's part of what we're saying. Asking these questions. There's nothing wrong with these kinds of questions. They're very fun to play with. But the whole point of them, when you're asking the question, ultimately, no matter what the question is, you're asking it so that you can bring that knowledge into this moment and have a different experience of this moment. And the moment's carrying forward in linear time. When you ask these questions, no matter what they are, that you're trying to understand the bigger picture. You're trying to understand the bigger picture so you can feel more empowered in your choices going forward.
Yeah, and then you think to yourself, well, Jesus, I mean, if that is a truth that's coming through here right now, that this, there is nothing but the all. The all is everything that's happening for this potential reality. Then, and as you say, you're trying to remember, and my mental mind is trying to keep up with you right now. Right?
I understand, which is why you're recording, so you can listen again.
Yeah.
But another piece, we go back to the idea that you make a choice and a new reality is created.
Like Seth said, we create our realities. Others have said this.
Mm-hmm.
We create our reality, and new realities. How many new realities are we creating in one day then?
It depends on how actively you're choosing things.
Yeah.
And again, many of the choices are very small and they reconverge. They merge back together again. But there are those choices that go like this, where in one pathway the couple stays together and they keep struggling. In another pathway they stay together and they fix the relationship. And in another they are done.
But to get that through my head, right? That okay. So we're always creating new realities. That's almost like for every choice there's a different parallel universe.
Yes.
Yeah. But that is sometimes the simpler the truth, the more it's true.
Mm.
Is that a simple truth? Because you tell that to a scientist, that's a very illogical use of energy and stuff like that in a logical kind of universe to keep creating multi-universes of new.
Well, that is based on a scientific judgment that conservation of energy is necessary because energy is finite.
Yeah. Right.
It's also based on a scientific judgment that efficiency is, we're going to make a joke out of this slightly, that efficiency is morally better than inefficiency.
So then if there's other realities being created all the time, I'm not physically jumping to other realities maybe.
No.
My consciousness is shifting
Yes.
to other realities.
Well, but not so much the consciousness that is you. You might think of, have you played any of the video games that are the multiplayer?
A little bit, only a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you only need a little bit of the concept to get where we're going here as we describe it. In other words, if you were to think of each person participating, a million around the planet, for instance, in a particular game, each person, as far as the game is concerned, is an expression of the game. And so think of you not as the personality that's here, or the physical body that's here, or the conscious awareness that you're having in this, is an aspect of the divine totality of you, which is the game. And so you're one of the players in the game. You're an aspect of the totality of the divinity you are, expressing in that aspect of the game that you're in, where other aspects that you're not consciously aware of. Yes, in the multiplayer games, you're going to intersect with some of these others directly. So the analogy breaks down there. But there are all kinds of other aspects of the bigger game, all kinds of other consciousness playing in the game, that the part of consciousness that is focused here is not going to interact with directly. And so when the part of the divinity that is you makes the choice here where things split, so to speak, that split, because the bigger totality of divinity has all of your experiences in it. So another portion of the totality of you that has all of that, because the totality of you has all of the experiences of all of the aspects of you. So it's you, but it's not you, if you will. If you take several drops of this water and put them over here, and then you take several other drops of the water and you put them in some other place, they're still the same essence of the water.
Yes, yes.
The fact that part of them are expressing there and part are expressing here, that reality going forward for each of those expressions will be different. But the place they started from is the same.
Right. Right. and and this idea of forgetting where we're coming from, that's to help us to that is part of what we came here for, was to remember the truth that you know where you are through remembering it this way.
Well, yes, but your first choice for coming here was simply to come experience what it's like to not remember.
To not remember, yeah.
To have the experience of, what do I do? Who am I? What do I need to do? What's my purpose? What's my meaning? What's this all about? To be in the question and the search.
What is love?
Of not knowing that you're divine, of not knowing that you're perfect, of not knowing that you do not need to change in order to.
But then from the conversation we've had, it would seem that our understanding of the nature of this reality is far from what we thought it was.
Well, indeed. Indeed.
Even for you to be coming through John,
yes,
would mean a misunderstanding of a lot of things, really.
You could say that, yes.
Yeah. How surprised are a lot of people when they've crossed over that, even though I've thought I knew what this was, it's not quite like that? Or are people allowed to travel across with their truths and they get to expand them?
Both
Or
of those.
They expand automatically when...
No, they do not expand automatically. It depends on how deeply attached someone is to their reality. There is neither desire nor need, because there is no limitation on time, so to speak. There is neither desire nor need to snap someone out of it. And yet there are those souls who, coming in, said, I'm going to put myself in the most constricted reality I possibly can. And so the experience of coming out, leaving the body, they can choose in advance to hold on to those constrictions longer and make it be a process coming out, or they can choose in advance to have snap, woo, eyes wide open all at once.
Total recall.
Absolutely.
Of their original truth before that aspect came into the human experience?
Yes. Well, because again, in essence, what that reawakening is a reawakening in the earlier analogy of the game to the total game. It's not just reawakening to divinity is larger than I thought, or the reality I was holding on to in that life is not what reality actually is, but it's actually the expanding of the awareness that you are not limited to the part of you that was expressing in this body in this life.
Isn't it strange though that you're coming through now, and I enjoy your truth, and I like your truth, yet I'll meet another and I like their truth.
Sure.
So it's not even a case of I'm saying, well, I don't resonate. I've resonated with almost 50 of the truths coming through, and they're all so different.
By all means.
And is that where it comes into the aspect of it all? There's this allness to it, because
The all is, absolutely.
Everything you can imagine happening is happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's why some of these different truths coming through, and I would go back to saying most of them, I actually feel to resonate as being true, yet it's different to the person that was sat in that chair being interviewed an hour ago.
Right.
Where I talked with that person about the looping effect, and that was true. And everything resonated in my body. I was like, it's true, we've done this before. And yet you're sat there and you're saying, no, that's true, but also this is true, and this could be true.
Well, and part of that focused consciousness, that is what you're experiencing. You are a focal point of divine consciousness.
To have this experience, I have
To have the
be,
experience,
yeah.
yes. Part of the definition of you is that focus.
Yes.
So the expansion is the multi-layeredness of you.
Yes.
And so when you're saying, we've done this before, it doesn't mean it was the specific portion, the specific drops of water that are in here now. Because from the totality,
No, it was different.
all of you have that.
I maybe wasn't speaking to you through John, maybe I was speaking to someone else through John.
By all means.
But now we me. But then, is it true what I'm saying? But then how do you, I mean, if I have to sit here and say, well, you know, if I want that to be my truth, and if I was going to present that as a teaching.
Do you want anything to be your truth? In other words, do you want to own and claim something as your truth?
Yes, it feels good.
But once you claim it as the truth that is your truth, or your truth, rather than your truth for this moment,
It's just my truth for this moment, isn't it? It was my truth.
Absolutely.
It was my truth for the moment a minute ago before you came along.
It would be lovely if you could find the truth that would be your truth for every single
Have you
moment.
found your truth for every single moment?
There's no such thing.
Your truth is always changing?
Truth is not the laws of how things work. Truth is the experience.
But as your experience, as you're going through this experience of where you are.
But the end of experience doesn't exist.
As you're, but then you can't say that to me then, because then you're saying for you, as you experience it, then it has to be. But then you're saying for your experience, it doesn't exist. So it only exists on a human level? Oh, I'm seeing it just gets lost, doesn't it?
Well, the paradoxes go on because this reality is focused through the filters of the polarities.
Does your truth change?
Aspects of it, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I can go down. I can understand that word.
Yes.
Those were human words.
Aspects of it, in that.
What are you looking for?
What are we looking for?
Yeah. What's your end goal? What? We came from you, not you. We came from the space that you come from, or maybe a different space. But we're out of time and everything else.
End goal, there isn't one. Momentary goal in every moment is to fully express and experience the moment.
Even where you're at.
Yes.
And where you're at is just human words for it.
Yes. But the difference being that the where we're at, human words for it, we know bigger pieces, and experientially we experience the divinity. And so we have no hesitation and no, shall we say, doubt of the divinity that we are, or the expression in the moment. It is natural and even automatic for us to express our isness in every moment. So the coming in here, another way to look at it, is to experience what it is like to have it not be natural to either experience the truth of you or be able to freely express that.
For those watching this, and for me in this moment now, are we watching, and am I communicating with just an aspect of my higher self?
Depends on how high you go. Because ultimately, if you go back far enough, you're the all. You're an expression of the all. You're a sliver of a sliver of a sliver of a sliver of a sliver, as is every other aspect, expressing as a being.
Is that what you are?
Yes.
So what makes us so different?
What makes it so different?
Well, what separates us, except for
Well,
obviously,
nothing separates us.
You know,
In
I'm
your
having a human experience.
Well, exactly. You're having an experience that is within a framework, if you will.
Did we agree that we were going to have this conversation, or is it just free will that it's happened?
Yes.
Both.
Yes.
Great.
We agreed with you that we would be available to you.
And those that are watching this.
By all
and
means.
those that will always watch this.
Absolutely. Everyone who will watch this in every moment they are watching it will be watching it because they have reached the place where they are ready.
And they agreed with you.
Yes.
Themselves.
Yes.
It. Her.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like an onion, isn't it?
If an onion were multidimensional instead of just three.
So when I communicate with you again, because I would have changed my truth on things because I'm a creator, like we all are, am I ever going to connect to the same aspect that I'm connecting to right now?
Same aspect.
Will I ever be able to communicate with you as you are now? Or because I'm changing my reality, am I going to connect to a different multidimensional aspect of you in the future if we do connect again, like this or some other means?
Again, the answer is yes and no.
Yes, it's still you,
Yes.
but no, it may not be, because you'll have changed your truth? Or
Well, in definitely in the
aspect.
sense of experience, the experiential aspect will change. And so any interaction between any two beings, in body or not,
I guess what I mean
is unique in its moment.
Absolutely. I guess what I mean is, if we're multidimensionally traveling sometimes, am I going to speak to another multidimensional aspect of this?
Certainly possible.
Do you have other multidimensional aspects of yourself?
Yes.
Do I?
Yes.
Oh, of course I do.
They're in other parts of the game.
Right, yeah. But there's you with multidimensional as well.
Yes.
Could your other multidimensional aspects give me another truth if I talked about anything that we've talked about today? Could they have a different truth to it, maybe? Or
Perhaps,
a
yes.
different aspect of truth?
They certainly could.
Are you aware of any of them?
The portion of the reality that is speaking here right now is focused here right now.
Right.
So the totality, the bigger aspect is, as is having the full awareness of here right now.
And is source multidimensional?
Add a few more multis in front of that.
Yeah, right. God's above gods, or aspects of itself around itself.
Yeah, it's much easier to just say the all.
Yeah, let's use that word. Well, so someone else that channels the all, which I was with on Sunday, is probably channeling just an aspect or a different aspect.
No one in this reality can truly channel the all.
And if they think they can,
Well, if they think they can,
and it's helping people,
well, it's fine that the labels are irrelevant. The names are irrelevant.
is that just your truth, though?
Everything is just our truth.
Or that aspect of your truth? Yeah. Discernment.
Discernment. We would say, quite frankly, anyone coming anywhere, you don't even have to get all the way to the totality. Getting very many levels up from the reality that you're in to attempt to bring through the entirety of the energy would create an energetic meltdown in the being.
What brings a balance in anyone's life of truth, though? I mean, what have I discovered here right now?
Well,
that I've just blown my brain? I don't know.
Certainly, but what is balance and why is it valuable? Why are you seeking it?
Oh, I don't know if I am seeking a balanced balance, but I don't know if I know what's true anymore and what's not in any given moment sometimes.
Absolutely.
But then that's still okay because I'm still kind of acting normal in front of people, I guess.
Well, but in any given moment, most of what we have discussed here today has no effect on that moment.
No, because I've still got to get through the shit. I've still got to get through shit, please. That's
fine. That's
I've still got to make
a description for the negative polarity. But in a particular moment, this theoretical aspect that we've been discussing is, in most cases, not going to help you make the decision of how to be in this moment.
No, because I'm going to go down the road and get something to eat, and I mean, how am I going? What's it going to do? But maybe it will make the difference of how I treat myself to just be a bit more open with myself in a loving way. Maybe it will spark something that I can't even imagine.
Absolutely. Because the thing that happened here today, that is happening here right now, isn't about the words. All of these words, all of you doing this entire project, is about you choosing to open to connect with other dimensional energies and to share those dimensional energies, to spread them around in these dimensions, to do it in a way that expands the reach out into the world.
Why does that matter?
It matters because you're choosing to.
You're saying that's a good reason for doing it, though.
By all means. That's the only reason to do anything.
But
breathe.
I'll think about that.
Okay. Now, we'll add one more piece to that, which is part of why it's happening, part of why you and many of the others, most, if not all of the others you have spoken to in this particular project, and shall we say, most, if not all of those who would say they are consciously walking a spiritual path, and most, if not all, of the beings who are in embodiment on the planet at this time, have come here because this is a transition time. Not because they need to create the transition, but to participate in it.
What are we transitioning from and to?
Well, this reality is moving up out of the limitation of you don't know you're divine. So you can call that ascension, you can call that whatever other term might apply, but that transition is happening.
So obvious, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. And the human ego of many, trying to still earn their value within the pattern that is dying.
I'm the body, that's it.
Yes. And I'm not divine, period, especially as that aspect.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
And the need to earn value are claiming the need to do the work to make it happen. We're not saying you're here to make it happen. You are choosing to express your divinity in opening up to the experience of divinity. This is your way of doing that. Right now. That will change through time. Everyone else is opening up to divinity to whatever degree they are ready to let go of their resistance, which resistance still shows up, but to whatever degree they're ready to let go of that resistance, they are opening to the expansion of divinity. And in doing that, they are embodying the transition. And in that sense, they are flowing the transition. But quite frankly, there is still a lot of human resistance going on.
But will every soul need to wake up? I mean, in this next, 50, 60, 70 years, I mean, it seems to me that a soul chooses to come down here not to wake up for that to be of great value.
Absolutely. And not every soul is going to wake up.
But for those who are, this is still a great transition time.
Oh, this is a blast. You are having a ball, even when you don't know it.
I agree there, totally. Don't worry. I do. Okay. Well, in human terms,
And breathe.
breathe, and you've given us an hour here of your time, right? And well, John's body has, so I appreciate that. Appreciate John's body for doing that.
Indeed.
No, and John for doing that as well. And how much of John is with us right now?
Well, all, but not with in the way you're asking the question.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
But you were asking questions that got quite a few of those puzzle pieces to come forth.
I hope so, and thank you for that. Yeah, and I've really enjoyed your energy, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Really enjoyed it.
Indeed, as we enjoy yours, dear one. So, much love to you now and always. Namaste.